This week on Talking Pictures with Neil Rosen, we'll look at two new comedies, one starring Julia Louis-Dreyfus as a writer with potential marital problems, and About My Father, starring Robert De Niro along with my interview with its other star, Sebastian Maniscalco. Maggie Moore's, a humorous crime thriller starring Jon Hamm and Tina Fey, plus a look at the new Netflix series Rough Diamonds. We've got all that and many more movie picks coming up. I'm Neil Rosen. Welcome to Talking Pictures. It's our monthly Critic Roundtable show where we debate what's worth watching and what's not when it comes to new releases, hidden gems, and Hollywood classics. Joining me are Lisa Rossman from The Ruby Report, Perry Nemiroff from Collider, and Wilson Morales from BlackFilmAndTV.com. Okay, let's start out with a look at several new films and limited series in theaters and or streaming, beginning with a new movie called You Hurt My Feelings, starring Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Let's take a look at a clip.
And all the articles and all the essays, you know? I mean, he probably thinks it's just crazy that I even teach, you know? Oh, God, what about my memoir? Oh, he probably thinks it's bad. Oh, my God, this whole time.
It's about you. How could he think that?
How could he possibly respect me?
Of course he respects you.
No, not if he doesn't like my work. You know that. He's probably been lying to me this whole time.
No, there's just no way.
He's a liar.
Lisa, tell us about You Hurt My Feelings.
Well, this is the latest from director Nicole Holofcener, whose early films like Walking and Talking I love, but who, in my opinion, has become kind of ground zero for first world people problems, namely movies centered on the issues of mostly white, mostly affluent members of the artist class. Here, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who is inarguably a gem, plays a New York City writer who's devastated to learn her therapist husband, Tobias Menzies, actually doesn't like her latest book, though he's been claiming he does. Honestly, that's pretty much the whole plot, plus or minus a few other struggling creatives, and the degree to which you are willing to put up with this molehill masquerading as a mountain may have to do with how much you can relate to the issue and how much you love the cast. I do love the cast, including the great Michaela Watkins and Arian Moayed, but honestly, I kind of resented losing 90 minutes of my life to these entitled people.
Oh, wow. I mean, I can understand that response. I like her films in general, so I was kind of prepared for what I was getting into here, but who can't relate to the idea of accidentally overhearing someone say anything negative about you?
But it's a Seinfeld episode, not a whole movie, you know?
Well, it is the majority of the movie that is about that. But I think where that winds up sustaining itself is the fact that she makes sure that each of the main ensembles situation is all dealt with, you know, some complexity where you understand what they're all going through. And they're all like, it's not even just that. It's all that they're at a crossroads in their lives and in their careers where you're challenged to make a pivot. Should you make the pivot? Is everything you've done before completely meaningless? I don't know. I found that I got involved in all four of their situations.
Oh, God. All right.
I kind of enjoyed it because it's somewhat, you know, we've all been in a situation where you wanted to say something, but you want to preserve the relationship, where you don't want to come out and say what you really feel because you know things are going to flare up afterwards. You know, so it's a question of whether or not you can feel something related to it or whether you're not.
I'm laughing because clearly I'm not that person.
Well, let me tell you something. The entire movie is built around this ridiculously thin, trivial premise. I mean, I can't believe they made the whole film about this privileged people problem. So the guy made a white lie to tell his wife that he liked the book to avoid like an argument or hurting her feelings.
He read 20 drafts. He lied for 20 drafts of her manuscript.
It was a glaring lie, but seriously, this is a Seinfeld episode.
I don't know. I like Julia Louis-Dreyfus, generally speaking.
Of course.
And Nicole Holofcener movies are fine, but not this one. I mean, when it was over, I go, that's it? That's the end? This was a whole bunch of meaningless talk about nothing. That's the way I saw it, and apparently you sort of agree with me.
No, I hundo P agree with you.
You guys don't. All right, let's move on. Okay, Wilson, tell me about a movie called Maggie Moore's with the S in parentheses, and you'll tell us why.
Maggie Moore's, which marks John Slattery's directorial debut. We've seen him in other series and films over the years. Here what you have is a small town police chief played by Jon Hamm, who's investigating the murders of 2 women who go by the same name, hence Maggie Moore. And in between looking for evidence or trying to figure out what's going on, he meets these quirky characters played by Micah Stock and Tina Fey. And what's interesting about this movie is that I like the script. I like where it was going. It's a dark comedy that has a little bit of romance in there. There's a little bit of everything going on, a little bit of a poker face from the Peacock series, if you find ways to how it relates. But the center of it all is Jon Hamm, and he makes it sell.
Lisa?
This is a lot of warmed over plots and storytelling gimmicks we've seen a billion times. There's echoes, especially I think, of Coen Brothers here, but to me, like, clearly the producing and directing team has earned a lot of good currency, because, but I wish they'd cashed it in with a better script. It feels like a waste of these caliber of actors.
Perry?
Yeah, I find it funny that, Wilson, you ended your comment on it's mainly about Jon Hamm, because that was the thing that lost me with this movie the quickest, is that every single time I thought I had pegged who the movie was about, it would switch, and then I'd have to completely reframe how I was looking at the scenario and what value it has beyond just being like, look at all this crazy stuff happens. The other challenging thing with this movie is that you know the answer, you know what was really
Well, that's like
going
Columbo.
on.
Yeah. They tell you,
Yes,
how
it
is
is.
he going to solve the problem? How's he going to solve the
Exactly.
case?
It's especially challenging to keep a viewer engaged, though, and guessing about something when you're in on it the entire time. And it makes some characters come across as, I guess, slower to figure things out. And it basically extinguishes any agency that the movie has.
Well,
That's a good point.
I don't agree. I think that, like I said, like with Columbo, you know what's going on. How are they going to figure this out? So Slattery, who, as you said, Wilson, it's his directorial debut, brings along his buddy from Mad Men, who both of them appeared in that. And I think it's a fun I think it's a fun first effort. First of all, Hamm and Tina Fey, who's in this, worked together many times before on SNL, and they had good chemistry there. And I think they have very good chemistry here. There's this romantic side angle where he's a widower, and there's this fumbling around in terms of he's reluctant to delve into another relationship. Plus, the crime thing is kind of interesting. I'm not giving much away that there's a cover-up murder. That's why there's 2 Maggie Moore things in this, and I enjoyed the movie. I think that I think it's worth a look. Perry, tell me about My Father, not My Father, or we'll be here for hours, which we don't have. Tell us about the movie.
Tell you
My Father.
about Sebastian Maniscalco and also his father, because this movie is loosely based on his own experience. So he co-wrote the movie and also stars in it as a fictionalized version of himself. And the situation is he needs to take his traditional Italian father to meet the parents of, and I said that on purpose, meet the parents of the woman that he is going to propose to. And they are super wealthy, and they expect that they are all not going to get along. Shenanigans ensue. Basically, what this movie is a not as good version as Meet the Parents, but not Meet the Parents, more so Meet the Fockers. I found it incredibly predictable, formulaic. A lot of the jokes fell flat to me. I think there are some moments in this that work well. In particular, I did really enjoy watching Robert De Niro, who plays his father in the film, having so much fun, and that probably extends to the entire ensemble as well. Everyone seemed to know what kind of movie they were in and seemed enthusiastic about it, and that winds up being infectious, and there is a warmth to that too. My only complaint with that warmth is that sometimes I guess how they leap too much into the formulaic comedy here takes away from that warmth, and that disappointed me.
Wilson?
If you just watch Robert De Niro's sides, you would appreciate it more. Everything else fell flat. I just could not find anything funny in it, and I understand it's coming from his story and so forth, but I actually did enjoy the scenes between Sebastian and Robert, but when you went anywhere else, it's almost like a whole different movie, and it just fell flat to me.
This is weird, but I actually liked this better than Maggie Moore's. I mean, I know that
No way.
I did, because look, unabashedly cheesy, badly produced, greatly overestimates the goodwill of audiences, and it does have zero chemistry between the 2 alleged lovebirds. All true. That said, I really dig De Niro as an aging Italian-born hairdresser. This guy seemed looser and more engaged in this performance than he has in like 15 years.
I don't know.
It was fun to watch him.
I keep saying this for years. I don't know what happened to Robert De Niro, why he insists on
He has too many kids, OVs,
Yeah.
and he's gone through a lot of.
He's
just working for a paycheck.
He continually does these lowbrow comedies. It is an inferior version of Meet the Parents or Meet the Fockers. I don't know why he keeps doing these particular things.
Hey, Chuck.
The last really good movie he did was Casino, and how many years ago was that?
Totally disagree. Come on, it's far too back.
Well, anyway, it's a serviceable comedy. Sebastian Maniscalco, it's kind of an autobiographical tale, but, there's a lot of cheap laughs here. I mean, he loses his bathing suit while, what do you call this device? Not jet skiing, like...
Don't look at me.
Like he's on an airlift kind of jet thing in the water, and that's supposed to be slapstick funny. It's really not. Look, if you like Sebastian Maniscalco and you like Robert De Niro, I think you'll be disappointed here, but it's the kind of movie where when we run out of material to watch and things to watch because of the writer's strike, if it's free on streaming, maybe it's worth a look. Well, anyway, I sat down with comedian, writer, and star Sebastian Maniscalco and talked about his movie. Let's take a look at that. How did you get Robert De Niro to do this movie? And even though this is comedy, which is more your specialty, he's done some comedies. Were you intimidated at first working with him?
Yeah, it wasn't something that I thought was even possible, but then here we have it. The guy gets the script, he enjoys it, he wants to have it read out loud in a table reader with a bunch of actors, and we do that. And then he signs on to do the film, which is, I never thought was in the cards for us, and it was such a blessing that we got him to play my dad. Very intimidating in the beginning, and it takes a few days to kind of get over that intimidation, and you peel back the layers of the onion, and underneath he's a sweet, just nice man. I think it's a buildup we have about this guy because he's played such intimidating characters in movies. You almost go in with that mentality that you're dealing with Ace Rothstein from Casino. So yeah, he's a sweet guy.
Love and Death is the name of a new series streaming on HBO Max, now called Max, starring Elizabeth Olsen and Jesse Plemons. Let's take a look at a clip.
I'm sorry, I've never done anything like this before.
I haven't either.
I would never be able to forgive myself if Betty ever found out. That would just be devastating to her.
I feel the same. We would have to be so careful that no one would ever know, except us.
That's right.
Perry, tell us about Love and Death.
So Love and Death is the latest adaptation of the true crime story of Candy Montgomery, a suburban housewife who kills her friend and neighbor Betty Gore in the 1980s. And I stress that it is the latest adaptation because I think that put it at a disadvantage for me right out the gate because I saw and liked Candy, which starred Jessica Biel and Melanie Linsky quite a bit. And when I jumped into this one, I think knowing the story, it's based on a true story, of course, but having just experienced it and experienced it in a way that I found more effective, put this at an immediate disadvantage. And in particular, yes, Elizabeth Olsen is fantastic in this. I think that Candy does a better job of servicing Betty's story than this one, and I think that made the ending of this fall flat for me compared to Candy.
Okay, I never saw Candy, and I have to tell you that this is simply one of the best limited series
my
I've seen
God.
in a long time. First of all, Elizabeth Olsen deserves an Emmy for this. She's phenomenal, and I knew nothing about this story going in, and I'm mesmerized. I'm riveted through all the episodes. To begin with, first of all, David E. Kelly wrote this, who was responsible for The Good Years of L.A. Law and Picket Fences, and it's kind of a dry satirical humor to this thing. It's sort of like Election, a little bit of Stepford Wives, and the first 3 episodes, it's like since it's a true story, it's like the lamest extramarital affair I've ever seen in my life. I mean, they have a big chart like, I'll make the sandwiches and I'll book the motel room. It's funny. Then it completely switches gears and becomes this like incredible courtroom drama, like on the level of an amazing 3-hour Law and Order episode. I love this thing. Plus Tom Pelphrey as the attorney, another phenomenal performance. Great writing, great acting, great story.
Okay.
And since I knew nothing about it, up until the verdict at the end, I'm on the edge of my seat. Okay, you want to talk?
No, it's just like, I feel like this isn't your lead, dude. I mean, listen, Elizabeth Olsen is a compelling actor. They all are, especially Jesse Plemons. But this is, in my opinion, the latest misstep from executive producer David E. Kelley, who's really made most of his career capitalizing on women's issues without fully grasping women's issues, especially female rage and repression, which is what this story is about, what this series is about. I totally agree with you that the Jessica Biel story is better, but honestly, because she's allowed to be more unruly, I think, like seriously, Olsen is a great actor, but she plays her so sweet, so mild-mannered for most of it, and that is not my understanding of who this character was. Frankly, I really think if you ever bother to tell the story again, and I do not know why you would, it would be great to see it told by a woman for a change.
Having seen Candy, I started watching a few of the episodes, but then I tuned out after the third episode, because after a while, I was like, okay, I kind of knew where it was going. I appreciated more of the Jessica Biel, and because they're not that far apart. It wasn't like Candy was eons ago. It was more recently, and I'd rather stick with that.
I think you're all wrong.
Yeah,
I think this is phenomenal.
Okay.
You should all see it. On Max, Lisa, tell us about a movie that you recommended called Past Lives.
Well, Greta Lee, whom some people may know from the Netflix series Russian Doll. Yes, go see Russian Doll.
Not the second season.
No, whatever, man. Here she plays a New York City-based playwright who's married to a white American writer, John Magaro, and she reconnects with Teo, who was her childhood sweetheart back in Seoul, Korea. He comes back into town to see her for the first time in decades, and the film kind of loops between the two countries and the past and the present with a lot of sensitivity, a lot of subtlety, a lot of craft. This is actually director Celine Song's first feature, but it's so assured and thoughtful. And it makes villains out of nobody. You expect a love triangle, and it's not what you get. It's all three characters grappling with the great losses and longing that the passage of time and the cross-cultural experience often evokes. This is honestly my favorite American film of the year so far.
Wilson?
I concur with her. It's definitely one of the best films of this year. It's very romantic, even though it's not what you may predict it to be. Sometimes you look at these stories and because you just assume it's boy meets girl, boy gets girl, and, they have the argument, they get back together. It's not like that, not to give it away, but it's a whole totally different story told in a different way. I do appreciate Greta Lee because she carries this film.
She's great.
So good.
It's Greta Lee. It's her story talking about meeting someone, knowing somebody from the past and catching up with them. And I think a lot of people can relate with that. Every now and then we'll go probably on Facebook and look around to see if there's anybody we can remember from high school or from our childhood days and to see if we can reconnect.
Exactly. It makes you think of past relationships of your own, of people who've come in and out of your life and you just don't see anymore. And it gives you a lot of food for thought.
Well, I'm not spoiling anything by saying this, but the movie opens with the three of them sitting at a bar, and you overhear other people in the bar trying to figure out who they each are. And when I walked out of the film, I felt like I was more aware of the people around me and wondering what their truths were. But anyway, this movie might be one of my favorite romantic dramas I've ever seen, and I think it might be I'm almost hesitant to use this term because I don't want to narrow it down too much, but this might be the best love triangle on screen I've ever seen in my life, where usually the formulaic version of that is to say, like, oh, I am team this or that. Like, the whole point of this movie is that you're team both, and there's value to
It's so
to
humane.
Both. There's value to not only both paths, but also to her own path and her dedication to who she is and what she needs. And the fact that Celine Song is able to balance all three of those things perfectly, where you feel satisfied no matter what the outcome of this movie is something else.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's smart and it's intelligent and it's for grown-ups, which is so refreshing. And Celine Song, as you said, I mean, it's a great story. And, initially I'm going, maybe this is has like a sliding doors vibe to it, but it's really its own thing, and it's highly recommended. And I think it'll be remembered around Oscar time.
I really
I'm
hope
with you
so.
on that.
Really hope so.
Wilson, Dollyland, or Daliland.
Daliland, which is directed by Mary Harron, who's known for films like I Shot Annie Warhol and the Christian Bale film American
American
Psycho.
Psycho.
Here we have the story of the famed artist Salvador Dali during his, I would call, depression eccentric years. It's played by Sir Ben Kingsley, and it tells set in 1974 between France and New York, where we're looking at his life as he's trying to put a new show together and meeting an individual by the name of Christopher Burney, along with his wife, Gala, played by Barbara Sokoa, and we have brief appearances by Ezra Miller in the movie. I don't know what this movie was trying to be. It's either you're getting a sense of his life, a sense of the artist's life, and you're getting a mix of both, but I think what marries, you've seen what she's done before in which she captures the essence of these characters. And I don't think you got a sense of who Dali was, Salvador Dali was, only up to towards the end when you're getting a sense of like who he was from the beginning, but not in the middle of this movie.
I'm usually a huge fan of director Mary Harron, actually. I mean, she's so good at sort of slyly subverting the patriarchy, and sometimes not so slyly. But I'm surprised. This is yet another biopic that takes the most mundane angle possible on a really fascinating cultural figure.
Yes.
Telling the story from the perspective of his assistant doesn't work for so many reasons, but mostly it's because the actor, Christopher Briney, is such a dull tool in the tool shed. He's pretty, but that's literally it. And we have so many scenes about him instead of Dali. And honestly, I think that Kingsley does a remarkable version of Dali. Ezra Miller, it may be a psychopath, but pretty good in those quick flashbacks. But we don't really get much about Dali. We're stuck in the perspective of this boring late 20-something.
I couldn't agree with you more. Let Perry chime in, and then I'm going to add something to what you said.
I felt like I was being kept at a distance from all the characters the entire time, and I wouldn't blame Christopher Briney's performance on that, just because that is the way the film was
like a
structured. And
goldfish.
I did find that he did what I think he needed to do, which is take the audience's hand and walk us into this wild world. I think it was just one missed opportunity after the next in terms of taking big swings with this wild world and making it atmospheric and enveloping us in it. Instead, it kind of felt, I feel like this word keeps coming up a lot, but it felt flat and predictable, which is the exact opposite of what this whole scenario is.
The best scene is the first scene.
Oh, that is the best scene in the movie. That's the best scene in the movie. Listen, I couldn't agree with you more, Lisa. Everything you said, 100%. When you're dealing the subject of Salvador Dali had so much potential, considering what an odd and unique character and wacky character this guy had. But exactly what you said, by going through the lens of this assistant who's dull beyond belief, it's like, what is this? And it was boring. Yes, I like Ben Kingsley. I think he was very good as Salvador Dali, but the writing and direction failed him. It's a canvas unrealized.
Wait, hold on. There's an elite society with all the best spider people in it?
Okay, so there's this lady, Jess Drew. She rides motorcycles. Oh my gosh, I'm learning so much from her.
Oh yeah, I've learned a lot of stuff too. I've leveled up my whole thing. See?
Oh yeah? Let's see then.
Let's go.
Thread the needle.
Over my heels, falling on my head, but all of my fears were already dead. And if I could rewind it for you, if you could remind me of what I felt before.
And Miguel.
That was a clip from the new film Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. It's Wilson Morales' personal choice as we go around the panel with our Critics' Picks of the Month. Wilson.
As you just mentioned, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is one of the best animated films I've ever seen. I think it's far superior than the first one. I think all of the cylinders are working, from its animation, its acting, its script, its action sequences, and the music. Everything works on this level. The storytelling on this is, you can get a bit confused midway, but the third act just goes on another level that you just have not seen before.
What a magically multi-tiered, multiversal spectacle. This is totally a sweet spot for me, and it lives up to the first, which is saying a lot, because that was honestly one of my favorite films of that year.
Well, it's a worthy sequel to the Oscar-winning predecessor.
Yeah, exactly.
And look at the voices in this thing. I mean, Oscar Isaac, Andy Samberg, Daniel Kaluuya, Rachel Dratch, and those are just a few. Yeah, it's quite well done. Okay, what's your pick, Lisa?
Rise. This is the latest by French director Cédric Clapiche, who made a splash in the early aughts with his film The Spanish Department. This one is a smaller scale. It's about a 20-something ballerina whose injury forces her to find a new calling as a modern dancer. Honestly, that's pretty much the whole plot, but this is one of the most compellingly shot and edited dance films I've seen in a very long time. And when a dance film is done right, it's ravishing in a way that very few films can be. I couldn't recommend it more.
The dance sequences are great.
So beautiful.
Perry, what's your pick?
This is a terrible transition. We're going from that to the Boogeyman. During
Oh, they're the
lockdown.
same kind of
Love
thing.
it. Tomato, tomato.
You guys watch Host at my recommendation,
Yeah.
right? So this is the latest from Rob Savage, and it is an exceptional Stephen King adaptation. All I want now is more Stephen King short stories to be adapted to
Totally,
film.
they're always good.
This one is
Shawshank was,
so-
Shawshank was a short story.
Yes.
One of my favorite films of all
all
time,
time.
Stand By Me, is a short story adaptation. In this one, they do the short story justice perfectly through an excellent scene in the film, but then they also build on it beautifully. And one of my favorite qualities of this movie is that it puts character before scares. The scares are all exceptionally well crafted, but those scares still will mean nothing unless the characters and their relationship and the audience's connection to them is strong, and they very much make that first order of business before things get wild.
My pick is the new 8-part Netflix series Rough Diamonds. It takes place in the Diamond District in Antwerp, Belgium, and follows the trials and tribulations of the Wolfson family. They're Jewish, ultra-Orthodox, and their business is diamonds. There are 4 grown-up siblings who run the business, but when one of them commits suicide at the beginning of the very first episode, his brother Noah, who left the Orthodox sect for London many years ago, returns for the funeral. The longer he stays, he uncovers a lot of dirty dealings like diamond smuggling and millions of dollars in gambling debts that the family has to try and dig themselves out of. Noah, trying to get the family back on track monetarily and save the business, gets them involved with a drug cartel as well as a very rough Albanian gang. Aside from the crime thriller aspect of the series, there are also personal stories here too, as we get to know the family, their customs, and a secret forbidden love affair as well. It's a look at a closed world and community that few outsiders ever get a chance to see. In the process, it's a fascinating, emotional, absorbing, and at times edge-of-your-seat roller coaster ride. Well, that's about all the time we have. I want to thank Lisa Rossman, Perry Nemiroff, and Wilson Morales. I'm Neil Rosen. Join us next time on Talking Pictures.